There exists within you a power that cannot be easily explained or quantified, yet it is undeniably present and profoundly influential. You possess a remarkable and unmistakable hold over this person's heart and mind, one that operates on levels both seen and unseen. Whether they are fully aware of it or whether it stirs beneath the surface of their consciousness, the truth remains unchanged. They find themselves perpetually drawn to you, constantly gravitating in your direction as if guided by an invisible force that neither time nor distance can diminish. It is as though something intrinsic to your very being serves as a beacon in their life, a guiding light that illuminates their path forward. No matter how many unexpected twists life takes, no matter how many turns lead them down unfamiliar roads, they always find themselves moving back toward you. From the very moment you entered their world, something fundamental shifted within them. The ground beneath their feet seemed to realign. The air they breathed carried a different quality. You awakened something dormant in their soul, igniting a spark that had long been waiting for the right person to set it aflame. This awakening you triggered within them was not superficial or temporary. It penetrated deep into the core of who they are, stirring a profound pull towards self-discovery and personal transformation. You inspired them to unearth passions they had buried under years of routine and responsibility. You encouraged them to recognize talents they had never even realized existed within themselves. Through your presence alone, you became the catalyst for their evolution, the mirror that reflected back to them not only who they are, but who they could become. This inner awakening has fundamentally changed how they perceive you. You are no longer simply someone special to them, someone they care about in an ordinary way. No, you have become something far more significant. In their eyes, you represent their ultimate match, their divine counterpart, one of the greatest and most profound blessings to ever grace their existence. They see you as irreplaceable, as someone who appeared in their life not by chance, but by design, by fate, by the universe's deliberate orchestration. You have a unique way of elevating the standards around you, not through force or intimidation, but through the quiet power of your example. You set a higher bar simply by being yourself, by carrying yourself with a dignity and authenticity that cannot be manufactured or imitated. This elevation you bring is not oppressive. It does not make others feel inadequate or less than. Instead, it inspires genuine growth and meaningful self-improvement. It creates a ripple effect that touches everyone fortunate enough to be in your orbit, but especially the person who loves you most deeply. There is an aura about you that defies replication. Something exists within you that transcends surface-level beauty, conventional charm, or practiced social grace. It is not merely found in the way you look, though your physical presence certainly captivates. It is not just in the way you speak, though your words carry weight and meaning. It is not simply in the way you carry yourself through the world, though your presence commands attention without demanding it. What makes you truly magnetic exists at a deeper, more fundamental level. It is something intrinsic to the essence of who you are, something woven into the very fabric of your soul. Your energy radiates with a warmth that comforts, a strength that empowers, and an authenticity that cannot be faked. This combination does not just attract them. It captivates them entirely, leaving them unable to fully articulate why they feel so powerfully pulled toward you, why being in your presence feels like coming home to a place they have always belonged. In their quiet moments, during those times when the noise of the world fades and they are left alone with their thoughts, they have reflected deeply on their own actions and choices. These moments of introspection have not always been comfortable. In fact, they have been confronted with some difficult truths about themselves, truths they can no longer ignore or rationalize away. They have come to acknowledge, with painful honesty, that they have not always been brave. There were moments when courage was required, when stepping forward was the right choice, yet they hesitated. They froze. They retreated into safety rather than risking vulnerability. They acted in ways that, when examined with clear eyes and an honest heart, could only be called cowardly. They prioritized their comfort over your connection. They protected themselves at the expense of what could have been built between you. And yes, they recognize now that they were selfish. At times, their actions were driven by self-preservation rather than genuine consideration for what you needed or deserved. The connection between you often felt entirely one-sided, with you continuously giving, extending yourself, offering love and patience, while they pulled back, withheld, and kept themselves at a careful distance. In many ways, that perception would not be incorrect. They were holding back substantial parts of themselves. They were hesitant to surrender fully, not because they lacked feelings for you, far from it, but because fear held them firmly in place. Fear of inadequacy, fear of change, fear of losing control, fear of the profound transformation that truly loving you would require. These fears built walls that kept them from reaching toward you with open hands and an open heart. Then came the separation, that painful period of distance that neither of you may have anticipated or wanted. While physical and emotional distance can sometimes weaken feelings, causing them to fade like colors left too long in the sun, in this particular case, the opposite occurred. The separation only intensified what they felt. Being apart from you forced them into a confrontation with their true emotions, a reckoning they could no longer avoid or postpone. In your absence, they discovered something crucial. What they feel for you is not fleeting infatuation or temporary attraction. It is not something that can be easily dismissed or replaced by someone new. What exists between you is deep, lasting, and powerful in ways that frighten and exhilarate them simultaneously. You are not someone they can simply forget, someone whose memory will gradually fade with time and distance. You have become woven into the fabric of their being, an integral part of who they are and who they wish to become. They have learned, through the painful lessons that only separation can teach, that the connection you share is not something that comes around more than once in a lifetime. This is not a common bond that can be replicated with someone else. This is rare. This is sacred. This is the kind of connection that most people spend their entire lives searching for, and many never find. Your person has now reached a pivotal point in their journey, a threshold they are preparing to cross. They have arrived at a place where silence no longer feels acceptable, where holding back the truth feels like a betrayal of what they know in their heart. They want to tell you everything. They want to speak openly about their feelings, about the depth of emotion they carry for you. They want to confess their fears, to name the shadows that kept them paralyzed. They want to explain why they did not choose you before, why they hesitated when they should have stepped forward without reservation. And here is what they need you to understand. It was never because you were not good enough. That thought could not be further from the truth. In fact, the reality was quite the opposite, almost paradoxically so. The depth of their feelings for you was overwhelming in its intensity. When they looked at what loving you truly meant, when they envisioned what building a life with you would require, they were confronted with a profound realization. Being with you would necessitate real, substantial change in their life. They recognized that in order to have you fully in their world, to honor the connection you deserve, they would need to sacrifice certain things. Old habits that no longer serve their highest good would need to be released. Comfortable routines that kept them stagnant would need to be disrupted. Certain relationships that drained their energy or pulled them away from their authentic path would need to be re-evaluated. Even parts of their identity as they once knew it, the persona they had constructed over years of conditioning and compromise, would need to be transformed. This realization was terrifying. So instead of stepping forward into that transformation, instead of embracing the discomfort that growth requires, they did what felt safer in the moment. They stepped back. They chose to retreat into a space where they could analyze the situation from a distance, where they could evaluate their priorities without the overwhelming intensity of your presence, where they could sort through the tangle of their emotions without feeling consumed by them. At the time, their withdrawal may have looked like rejection. It may have felt like abandonment. You may have interpreted their distance as a clear statement that you were not wanted, not valued, not chosen. But the truth is far more complex and, in its own way, far more hopeful. What appeared to be rejection was actually a moment of profound reckoning for them, a necessary pause in their journey toward you. They wanted to be absolutely certain that when they finally came toward you, when they finally offered themselves fully, it would be without hesitation or doubt. They wanted to approach you without the weight of guilt dragging them down, without the burden of unresolved issues clouding their vision, without the chaos of their internal conflicts spilling over into what you would build together. They needed to know, with complete conviction, that they could stand before you as someone worthy of the love you offer. Not perfect, because perfection is neither possible nor necessary, but whole enough, healed enough, and brave enough to meet you where you are and walk beside you into the future you both deserve. They have spent this time apart not idly, not in passive waiting or comfortable distraction. They have used this separation intentionally, purposefully. Yes, they have thought about you constantly, your memory a steady presence in their mind and heart. But they have also done the difficult, uncomfortable work of looking inward and addressing what they found there. They have begun the process of genuine transformation, of becoming someone who can love you the way you deserve to be loved. They have started to see, with increasing clarity, that real love, the kind that lasts and grows and weathers every storm, requires tremendous courage. And that courage cannot coexist with the constant fear that once paralyzed them. They understand now, in a way they did not before, that they cannot return to you as the same person who left. That version of themselves, the one who hesitated and withdrew, would simply repeat the same patterns. They need to demonstrate through their actions, not just their words, that they have grown. They need to show you that they finally understand the true value of what they nearly lost. They need to prove that they are now ready, genuinely ready, to give you the openness, the commitment, and the emotional honesty that you have always deserved but did not always receive. What draws them toward you now has evolved beyond simple longing or physical attraction, but both of those elements certainly remain present and powerful. What pulls them forward is something deeper and more substantial. It is the clarity that comes from truly understanding what absence feels like, what life without you means. They have discovered, through the painful experience of separation, that life without your presence feels fundamentally incomplete, like a story missing its most important chapters. Your presence brings them something they cannot find anywhere else. You provide balance when their life feels chaotic and uncentered. You offer focus when they feel scattered and directionless. You give them joy even when circumstances are imperfect, even when external conditions are challenging. You are not just a source of happiness during good times. You are the anchor that keeps them steady through every storm. You challenge them, but in all the right ways. You do not criticize or diminish. Instead, you encourage them to dream bigger dreams, to hold higher expectations for themselves, to live more authentically and courageously. You inspire them to shed the masks they wear for the world and embrace the truth of who they really are. This kind of influence cannot be overstated. It is transformative. It is rare. It is precious beyond measure. This journey toward you is not easy for them. They would be the first to admit that. After all, meaningful change is rarely comfortable. Growth requires stretching beyond familiar boundaries. Transformation demands that we release our grip on the known and step into uncertainty. But they are beginning to see, with increasing conviction, that every sacrifice they once feared is not actually a loss at all. Each adjustment they need to make, each comfort zone they need to leave behind, each old pattern they need to release, these are not sacrifices in the truest sense. They are exchanges. They are trading the superficial for the profound, the temporary for the lasting, the convenient for the meaningful. They are choosing authentic connection over hollow comfort, real intimacy over safe distance, transformative love over predictable routine. They are coming to understand that love, genuine love of the kind worth building a life around, is not about convenience or ease. It is not about finding someone who requires nothing from you, who demands no growth or change. Love is about choosing someone despite the difficulties that choice might bring, despite the adjustments required, despite the unknowns that lie ahead. Love is about looking at all that would need to change and deciding, with full awareness and open eyes, that the person on the other side is worth every single step of the journey. They realize now, with a clarity that brings both relief and determination, that choosing you would never truly be a loss. It would be an elevation, an expansion, a step into a more meaningful and fulfilling version of life than they currently inhabit. This realization has been slowly, steadily replacing the fear that once held them back. Where there was once hesitation, there is now determination. Where there was once doubt, there is now conviction. Where there was once paralysis, there is now readiness to move forward. As they prepare to step toward you, they are carrying with them a new sense of resolve, a clarity of purpose that was absent before. They want to show you, not merely with words that can be easily spoken and just as easily forgotten, but with concrete, consistent actions, that you are worth every effort they must make. You are worth every change they must embrace. You are worth every leap of faith they must take. They want to bridge the gap that has grown between you, to cross the distance that separation created, and to prove beyond any doubt that the love they carry for you is not just talk or empty sentiment. What they feel is real. It is alive. It is growing. And they are finally ready to nurture it with the attention and dedication it requires, to protect it from the fears and doubts that once threatened it, and to fight for it with everything they have. To them, you are not just another person who happened to cross their path during this lifetime. You are not someone they will look back on with mild fondness and pleasant memories. You are so much more than that. You are the catalyst for their transformation, the spark that ignited their journey toward becoming their best self. You are the mirror that reflects back to them both their highest potential and the areas where they still need to grow and heal. They know now, with absolute certainty, that the connection you share is not something to take lightly or dismiss as ordinary. This bond is rare. It is powerful. It is the kind of connection that shapes destinies and alters the course of lives. And because of that, because of the sacred nature of what exists between you, it is worth everything they must give to honor it fully. The journey continues, and though the path has been longer and more complicated than either of you might have hoped, they are finally moving in your direction with intention, with clarity, and with a heart that is ready to love you the way you have always deserved to be loved.